There we go. So you may have to click a button saying it's okay to record or to listen. Thank you again, everybody, there's quite a few of you I think that I don't know. So I'm Kristine Shoemaker. I run Shoebox Arts, which is an artist mentor, artist support network. And I also run Art and Cake, which is an art magazine, and the executive director of January Arts, which is a nonprofit. And I'm also an artist myself. So for those who may not know me, um, I live in Los Angeles at the Brewery Arts Complex, and I have my art history and my studio art degree. So I've taught art history and art appreciation. I've given numerous workshops on everything from social media to networking for the socially anxious artists, to which several of you I know have taken. I have like a shoebox lab, which is a 6-week workshop. And I love doing that. That's kind of where I thrive, is like education and teaching. And so, I haven't like had the bandwidth to do any workshops in the last few months because we've been launching January Arts. And so it's like, okay, now it's time. And I always do these workshops based on a question that an artist asks. And somebody had asked me, hey, can you talk about art opportunities? How do you get them? What are they? For somebody just starting out in the art world to somebody even farther along. And so I'm like, that's a great idea. So, I'm always like, and I learn too from the research that I do and from the conversations. And I'm like, somebody called me a social instigator. No, community instigator or something like that. I'm always like, I love bringing the art community together because we are able to share our resources and our experiences and tools. And so I'm sure like there are art opportunity places that I don't know about. And so, you can share those in chat.
Sure.
Like I said, I have a whole list of websites. There's one I just found weekly called Our Weekly Rise, which is an interesting site to check out. I'm a troublemaker. Yes, Valerie, thank you.
Yes.
Um, and one of the other reasons I'm doing this workshop is because for the last 8 years, I've done a call for art list every 2 weeks, give or take a week or two if there's a holiday or something. But through Shoebox, we would, send this list to our artists, and we would research and filter out, the better art opportunities, the ones that we felt would be, good for, or would be more respectful, more professional, more serious, and also grants and residencies and fellowships. And for those, I just sent one out on the 4th. Oh, okay, a week ago on Wednesday. And I'll go ahead and forward that to everybody, actually. That way you could see it. But I'm actually going to be discontinuing it. So next Wednesday is my last one. And one of the reasons is because, and I actually did it as a subscription too, where you could pay for it. But one of the reasons I'm discontinuing it is because I have noticed lately there are hundreds and hundreds of calls for art. And to go through and search and research and figure out the best spaces and who's the most prestigious, jurors or gallerists or, anybody like that. And also trying to I pay attention because if I know, especially my artists, if I know their type of work, I try to gear it towards them too. And so it takes me a few hours every 2 weeks at least to do it. And so because of that, I'm kind of moving it for my artists. I'm posting opportunities in our private Facebook group now, but I just it's a lot, and so I want to be able to put my energy in other places. And so I get emails from there's a newer one, SoCal Arts, that they have an Instagram and they also have a website, and I have their link. And it's free art opportunities. So there's so many out there, so many places, so many websites, um, Instagram accounts, Facebook groups where people or galleries, curators post calls for artists. If you're in Los Angeles, you may know about the Facebook group Los Angeles Art Opportunities. My friend Danny Dodge started that. I think there's like 15,000 people in it. And it's a great place for art, like calls for art, along with jobs. So if you're searching for a job, definitely, and you'll see the link in chat in when I post it or when you get it. So you can, join that group when you get it. So that's kind of like the gist of why I am doing this talk, this workshop. But I did want to start kind of from the beginning, in terms of the idea of art opportunities. And, it's a term that's bandied around the art world, in different circles, because I was thinking about it. I'm like, does Mark Bradford really think about art opportunities? You know,
Right.
or like Cindy Sherman or, artists like that. So it's like, art. And I was talking to somebody recently. I don't even remember who now, because I can never remember who I talked to. I mean, like, I talk to so many people and get so much advice um, and we were talking about it, like art opportunities are really great when you're just starting out. And when you're, excuse me, I mean, and starting out could be the first 5, 10, 15 years of your career. I mean, even 20 years. It depends on how fast you're working, how much, what your goals are. It depends on all of that. And so, but also, I read something earlier today that it said the best way to encounter new opportunities is to be actively engaged in your field, putting in effort and actively seeking out possibilities. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what if we change the word opportunity to possibilities? Like art possibilities. It's like, I don't know, there was like this shift in my mind, like, ooh, I kind of like that, because I mean, I don't know. I don't something to think about. Um, it could, well, I don't know. We'll talk about that as we move on. But for an artist that's just starting out, it always comes down to your goals. I mean, it always, and you may not know what those are, and that's okay. I'm going to be doing a workshop for that in January. So, the beginning of the year, goal workshop, keep an eye out for that. But you may not know what they are, and that's okay. So, in the meantime, I mean, think about the big question, why? Why are you an artist? Why do you do what you do? Why do you go in the studio and paint? Why do you sit at your kitchen table drawing? Why do you, go around taking photographs? What do you want out of that? Do you want to sell? Do you want to show? Do you want validation? Do you want, I mean, and all of that is valid. I mean, all of that is totally valid. You can have one or you can have all of it. So, but with all of it, whether you want to show, whether you want to sell, um, it is about getting your work out there, and of course, there's many ways to do that. Social media, I mean, before social media, it was just showing your work in person or sending slides, heaven forbid.
Right.
Um, but, it was, before social media, yeah, it was showing your work in person. Now, of course, we have social media where we can post our work and get it out there for opportunities, potential opportunities, which and validation, of course, Um, but, opportunities include, having your work seen and, hanging in a gallery, hanging in a space, hanging like, actually like creating the work and, telling the story of your work to an audience. And that, again, that could be social media. I mean, social media is a built-in opportunity right there to get your work seen and shown. But, when we talk about opportunities, we talk about Yeah, excuse me, my mouth is, or my throat is already going to be dry. Thankfully, I have cough drops. Um, uh, sorry. Um, I was talking about whenever I talk fast, that happens. Um,
You're talking about social media and that being an opportunity in itself.
thank you, thank you. And then moving to opportunities like the opportunity that most of us want. I say the universal us because I don't necessarily want it. I want different things, but the opportunity that we want is to show our work in person to an audience. I mean, does everybody kind of agree? Is there anybody that doesn't agree with that or that has a different idea? So, okay, so most people can kind of agree with that. Um, but I will say that, excuse me, it's, when I talk with my artists, many times we talk about imposter syndrome. We talk about feeling not good enough, not worthy. Why am I an artist? What am I doing? And my question is, and this is on the same lines, but my question is, if you didn't create art, what would you do? Or could you not create art? Could you get rid of your supplies? Could you get rid of, your camera, your phone, whatever, and not create art? And, the answer is universally no. It's like, there's no way. There is no way. I see art everywhere. I'm an artist. And I think all of you are too. Like everybody I know who I talk to is an artist, is, one way or the other. So, then it's like, okay, the why. You're going to continue to make art. There's no doubt about it. So then it's like, thinking realistically,
Yes.
what do you, oops, I'm just going to mute you fellas. Okay. Thinking realistically, what, what do you want in your career? Who do you want to be as an artist? And that could go many different directions. You could be a commercial artist. You could be an artist who paints and, shows with interior designers and, puts work in hotel rooms or corporations or, you know, um, has work on bags and, and pillows and things like that. And that's one whole path to being an artist. You could be an artist who is all about social justice, who is all about, sharing politics, feminism and, things that are going on in the world today, climate change and the environment and nature and, all of that. And, and not worried about selling your work, just wanting to get the message out there because your language is visual. You're like, I say this, and my friends would be like, don't say that. But I'm not a writer, but I am a writer. I like, I don't really like writing if I have an assignment, but if I write something that I'm passionate about, okay, I write. But I don't, and I shouldn't say that. As an artist, I don't use writing as a career. I don't use writing as a mode of expression. My mode of expression is visual. So, but some people use poetry. Some people use, yeah, exactly. Some people are writers. Some people write books, and short stories and things like that. And so, it's as artists, we are visual storytellers. And so if you're like a social activist or, and this is just one path, you're creating work to get out there to an audience, to show. And so you're going to be looking for those opportunities. If you are an artist that just has a passion, has like, is just what they see, they need to document, they love painting, they want to show it in galleries, they want the recognition, you know, you'll also need to look for opportunities because that's a whole other path too. So, kind of where I'm going with this is that, it depends on what path you want. And you could, again, want all of it. That's the thing. You don't have to stick to one or the other. We can do two things, five things at the same time. It's a juggle, of course, but um, just keep that in mind as far as like thinking about opportunities and, things like that. Oops, Ruby, I'm just gonna mute you there. Um, so let me see, where was I going with that? Um, in terms of, so if you're just starting out as an artist and you've taken painting and drawing classes and you create sculpture or and you're on to something and people tell you your work was great and you've sold pieces, but you're not sure what to do, where to go. Um, a couple things in terms of opportunities. You can find opportunities through community. Keep that in mind. Like being part of an art community, and it could be an association. There's like Pasadena Society of Artists, there's Los Angeles Art Association, there's Southern California Women's Caucus for the Arts, there's I mean, every city has an art association. Vegas, I'm sure does. There's, every place has an art association. And so, yes, there are some that are not going to be a good fit, and that's okay. So it's like it is finding where you fit. Um, but finding a community is a good place to start in terms of finding opportunities. And some of the associations are like, $50 a year, $100 a year. So it's not that expensive to join. And there could be some that are free. The other thing is, when I talk about community, that could also be just finding other artists. And that means going to openings, to art openings, going to art events, whatever those look like. Opportunities come, and I was looking for the direct quote from this, and I realized it's not opportunities, but Picasso said inspiration comes when you're working or something like that. But I feel like opportunities do too. And I tell this story all the time. When I first started doing Shoebox, I met with Shana East Ambrot, who's the art critic in LA. And she would give talks on professional development for artists, like on panels and stuff like that. And so the one piece of advice that she always gave was she gets work when she walks out the door. And I have noticed, and this is for her writing. This is like when she goes to an event, people are reminded of her that she's there. They ask her to write something. I mean, like artists hire her, galleries hire her, whatever the work is by showing up. And that is the same exact thing with opportunities. It's like, walking out the door, going to an art event, you never know who's going to be there. I hear story after story, of my artists going out to an event and, talking with somebody who is curating a show about something and their work fits perfectly and they get in the show. It's like that happens all the time because curators and gallerists, they'll, especially meeting you in person helps, because they get to know you as a person. And if you show them your card, or depending on the event you're at, sometimes they'll ask to see your website, or sometimes they'll ask to look at your work. And so you just never know what's going to happen when you walk outside the door. So, but you have to get out. You have to show up. You have to get yourself out there that way. And that also includes social media. Opportunities happen on social media too. It may not happen overnight. Just don't expect that. But when you stay active on social media, people see that you're active. And when you tell your story on social media, people keep an eye on that. And like if it's somebody like, I mean, well, me, I if there's an artist that I like, I follow them on social media. And I don't remember what it was. and especially they were telling their story. I don't think this was the exact one, but I worked with an artist who she has had brain tumors and cancer and has just dealt with like blow after blow after blow. And her work, she's done this photographic series that's amazing. And excuse me, Ted Meyer, there goes my throat. Um, thank you. Ted Meyer, who curates for USC Keck, um, he does a whole series where he curates artists with disabilities, with all sorts of like not just disabilities, but like different. He just curated. He asked me if I knew any artists that had endocrine issues. And so I had to look it up. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And menopause is one of them. So I referred, my artist Adiola to him, who is doing a project on menopause. And she has a show up right now with him. And so the same thing with this artist, Melissa, who's had brain tumors. And I said, you should look at this artist. I don't know if you have any shows coming up. Um, but, look at her and keep her in mind. And he put her in a show. I mean, she has this amazing energy. And they had it was a wonderful collaboration. But it's because, she told her story on social media. And no problem. Sorry. No problem. She told her story on social media, so I knew what her work was about. And so, that's also how opportunities happen by telling your story, by putting yourself out there. I always say the whole thing, if a tree falls in the forest, does anybody hear it? It's like, if you don't put your work out there, nobody's going to see it. Nobody's going to know, right? So, and it is, Emily. I mean, it is. It, um, it's because our art is us, right? I mean, our art is an extension of us. It is like we're being vulnerable by putting ourselves out there. And then, of course, we're like, you know, imposter syndrome again. It's like, well, my work isn't good enough, or I'm comparing myself to them, or, which happens all the time. Compare and despair is a phrase when you compare, you despair. So keep that in mind. There's a book, and my artists are going to laugh at me because I can never remember at the title of this book. I've listened to it on Audible 3 times. It's called Nobody Knows What They're Doing by Lee Cretchley. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. The 10 Secrets All Artists Should Know. And it's like 2.5 hours on Audible if you listen to it. And the guy is British. So there's that. But it's a short book. I highly recommend it. It's like it says it like it is. Don't compare yourself up to others because everybody's in a whole different world. Everybody's in a different place. Everybody's looking for different opportunities, for many, many different reasons. So it's called, see, oh my gosh. I'm like, nobody knows what they're doing. There we go. I should have that tattooed someplace. Because I mean, that's how much I recommend this book. This is like, oops, what it looks like, the cover. Nobody knows what they're doing. Yeah, it's short and sweet and highly, highly, highly recommend. I recommended it to my artist, and Dallas, I think, has read it 2 or 3 times now. So, yeah, thank you, Dallas. Oh, Dallas, sorry, I didn't even realize you were there. Yes. Um, so let's see.
Yes, I'm right
Opportunity.
there with you, Kristine.
I know.
Everybody should read it, and it'll help with your imposter syndrome. It'll help with your comparing yourself to other people, all of that. I also, with Kristine, highly, highly recommend it. And it's not just for visual artists, it's for the arts, period. Whether you're a writer, an actor, a singer, whatever. It's a great book.
Yep, thank you. Perfect. I could blow my nose while you were talking.
Yes, give you a break there.
Yeah.
Put the
Oh,
book,
cool.
the art
Awesome,
in
Phyllis. You know,
the chat.
I was putting ornaments on a tree and I was thinking about it. I'm like, I should be listening to it again. And I'm like, well, maybe I should listen to holiday music instead. But actually it was nice and quiet. And I'm like, actually, that's good. Um, but so opportunities. Um, you know, in terms of getting out there and in terms of submitting your work, yeah, Dallas, do you mind? Did you put it in chat? Or can somebody put a link or something in chat too?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Um, you know, so okay, getting your work out there involves, it could be many, many different things. Um, gosh darn it, I haven't talked this fast or this much in a little while. Um, it could involve you know, submitting to shows, which when you think of art opportunities, most people think of calls for art. Most people think of juried calls for art, you know, cafe, call for entry. Is there anybody that's never heard of cafe? So okay, Susan, most everybody has heard of cafe. Cafe is one of the top websites to find uh, to find entries. And I think it's callforentry.org. Oh, wait, there's a couple of them actually. There's a couple call for entries. Again, I will send you these links, you know, later on, but it is like, you know, it's the place where most galleries, grants, residencies all over the United States and even internationally will post opportunities. So there is that. It does take a bit to research. I mean, because you can filter out by state, by city, by medium, by you know, by many different things. And what you do is you set up an account and you like upload your work and you submit it through Cafe, and then the juror will jury the work for each show through Cafe. So it's actually it's a pretty good process. We've used it through Shoebox, and if we have issues, they're very good at at helping us right away, you know, getting back to us and stuff like that. It does cost money for the gallery. Just know that in terms of opportunities, it's like $400 or $500 to post a call, something like that, unless you like have an account or, um, you know, yeah, I use that one too, Annie, and it's in my list too. Um, but but it's, you know, it's a central one. And when I was researching calls for art, most of the calls I would find on other sites are also on Cafe. So, and you know, vice versa, you know, because people like for Shoebox, we would post several different places, you know, because we wanted as many artists to see our calls as we could. So, so you can go to websites, and here, I'll go ahead and just put these links here in chat. Um, just so that way you'll be able to save them. And oops, did it all go through? Yeah. There's a bunch here, but when you save it'll show up in a list. But that way you have that there. Um, so what happens is if you're just starting out or depending on where you are in your career, you know, you know, you could have been showing for 30 or 40 years and be bored and want to submit work for a show. Why not? um you know, you can go to these websites, you can, you know, and find a show. I mean, there's colleges that post calls for art, universities, there are small museums that do also. They post workshops, they post all sorts of things in a lot of these websites. And so, you know, you can go and look up different calls for art. And especially if it's a show that your work fits perfectly in, if there was a body image show, I'd probably submit. I don't really submit because I just right now don't have time to drop off work and pick up work and go to the opening and go to the artist talk. And, you know, not until I'm like on hiatus from Shoebox or from the gallery. But, you know, if there was a body image show, I would submit. And so, because it's right up my alley. And, there's a chance that I wouldn't get in, and my work is perfect for body image, but there's a chance this is something, rejection goes hand in hand with artist opportunities. Just know that, rejection is a real thing. And I could be rejected because it may not be the exact topic of body image that they're looking at, or they may be looking at work, well, a certain size, but you'd submit work, but you never know, you just never know. So, that is the thing about applying for opportunities is it is like a lottery. Um, I hate to use the word crapshoot, but it can be. And also the thing is, most of them, there are fees. And so I just wanted to mention that because a lot of, artists complain about that. And because I mean, a lot of artists don't have money, or we have a budget, set aside for our art career. And it's like, okay, wait, do we want to buy paint or do we want to submit to the show? I have no idea why I'm so bright either. Sorry, everybody, I'm glowing. Um, and so, so it's a thing like LA art opportunities. If you've been in that group before, there's people like there's that comment, I'm not going to pay fees to submit my art for shows. Totally fine. It's like you don't have to post that then. Just ignore the post and move on. Um, but it is just like writers and poets. It's kind of, I hate to say how it works, but in order for these opportunities to be out there, the space, the juror, like it costs money to also do it. And so, ooh, thank you for sharing Mass Attack. Um, I'll be there, so hopefully I'll see you guys there too. Um, but it costs money to do these, open calls. And, if you look at it from the side, and it's hard to shift perspective, but think about if you look at it from the side of the gallery or I mean, mostly the gallery that will be putting it on, or the association, or, a lot of times they want to see new artists work, which is great because we want them to see new artists work, right? We want them to see our work. We also want, or they also, they want to bring new artists together. They want to sell work. So, I mean, because galleries, their primary function is to sell work so they can pay their rent. And they're struggling right now. Galleries are having a hard time right now. I mean, especially in LA. I will say that. And we were talking, I was talking to somebody recently because of the entertainment industry here. There's still a lot of people in the entertainment industry that are out of work. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's why Brewery Art Walk was slower this time. It's like people aren't spending money on art. And so the galleries are not doing as well, but their primary purpose is to sell art. And so they're going to bring in artists who they believe they can sell their art to their collectors. April. Oh, you're muted, April. Oh,
No, sorry, buttons. Yeah, their primary, gallery's primary, objective is to sell art. But if they make all their money on the art call, basically, like, they charge enough artists this so much money, and then they really don't have any reason, it seems, in some cases, to sell, to find collectors, find buyers.
it
Well,
depends.
usually they get 50% of the profit.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely depends on like how much the call is, how many people submit to the call. I will say, um, I mean, I know like I've heard anywhere between, in the fees that come in, galleries can bring in anywhere from like $1,000 up to like $3,000 or $4,000 for a call for art. So they pay a juror normally like $500. So part of that is gone right then, to pay the juror. Then like they have to, they pay their employees to install the show, they pay for marketing, whatever the marketing is. Um, I mean, all of the expenses that go, the food for the reception, all of that is used. And some of the spaces, some of the, like for instance, Tag also gives cash prizes out. So, part of the money goes into that too. So, they don't get a lot of money for the jury call, things. Now, I will say, and I see you guys' hands, Sharon Loudon, who I adore. She's written or she's produced the books Living and Sustaining a Creative Life, an Artist as Cultural Producer, and she's making one now, or she's producing one now, artists over like 65, I think. She juries shows, and she said whenever she juries a show, she makes sure to get back to every single artist, like give them feedback so they get something for their money, which is fantastic. I mean, because she understands that yes, the galleries need to charge, but it's like, what about those artists who submit work and it is a lottery? It's like, okay, did my art get in? Did they not? There goes the 25, 35, $40, whatever it is. So it's a tough thing. I don't want to spend too much time on, because we could talk the whole time about fees and stuff like that. But go ahead, Mariana.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I went through this and over time, because I mean, I started from zero, right? Recently, I mean, 4 years ago, but I had to go through all this. And what I learned also, you really need to do research because, like, there's a couple of galleries I can tell you, like KBM Gallery from Riverside. That's a scam because they charge you $35. They put it online. The website is horrible. They don't do anything for you. And there is a line of those, there is like a few I learned. And there's all like new type of like a holy gallery, international galleries who charge a lot of money. But I mean, there's online and sometimes I never apply there, but I follow them and I see what's going on. So, but the quality of art is not very high. And again, I don't know how you, like, I'm a fiber artist. If I am presented in crowded on different style, my art is dead. It doesn't look good. It never sells. It never promoted well. Doesn't make any sense. So basically, what I'm saying that just do your research. Don't like blindly throw away money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes too, for sure, for sure. Tanya, did you have a question or?
No, I just wanted to comment briefly and say and kind of come behind what you were saying, Kristine, that the fees that a gallery gets from a single call for entry might in a city might pay their rent for a month, might pay the salary of one gallery sitter for a month, but that's all it's going to do. They're not making any kind of major profit at all. They're underwriting some of their costs. And that's true for every gallery I've dealt with in San Francisco. And yes, there are illegitimate galleries out there, and we could all name some who are not giving, who really, and they really take everybody who applies because they're putting it online. It doesn't cost them anything. You gave them the image, and they don't want to deal with the complaints, and that's all they're doing. They don't have a brick and mortar presence. They don't do any promotion. They don't care. And sure, that is a scam, absolutely. But all of the brick and mortar galleries I've connected with are really trying hard to sell my art because that makes their reputation and they're living on their reputation. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Absolutely. Susan.
Well, I just wanted to share a couple of things. Um, First of all, you were talking about books to read. And long, long ago, there was an exhibit at CalArts called Anonymous Was a Woman. And it was all about the days in which women didn't sign their own names on their artwork. It always said anonymous because women weren't allowed to be artists. And things have changed radically, particularly with the recent election. And there's a book from long ago by a woman named Tilly Olson, who was a economist, I think, as well as a writer. And most of her work was fiction, but she wrote one book in particular that I highly recommend for any of you feminists out there called Silences. And Silences is a book of chapters, and it deals with women who were married to men who were also in the arts. You know, uh, Elizabeth Barrett Browning and Robert Barrett Browning, for example. So it could be writers or musicians or visual artists or all kinds of people. Each had their own chapter, and it gets into a description of the period of time in the women's lives when they stopped doing their art. And there were periods of silences because they were being the supportive woman behind the man. And it's just pretty eye-opening to look back at that kind of stuff. So
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
it's just an interesting book, Tilly Olson.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So something, jumping kind of or thinking about, applying for calls for art and the money involved and whether to do it or not. It kind of part of it, goes to what Mariana said, research, research, research. And that could mean it could be just taking a minute to look at the website. I would do that for every single call that I would post in my call for art list. Looking at the websites, I would go to their Instagram, because that way you could see photos of the space. And if it was like a space that, the shows in the past were like a mix and, it just didn't look professional, I wouldn't post it. And so, those you can tell pretty fast. Um, it's the other thing is, as far as research, is also ask other artists. Like if you go to their Instagram or Facebook, or, or if you see what other artists are showing in that space or have shown, reach out to them and say, I'm thinking about applying for this show. What do you think of the gallery? What do you think of working with them? Susan.
I'm sorry. I'm sitting here going, ooh, ooh. I had this experience the other day, and it just was out of nowhere, pretty much, totally unexpected. But I ended up at the city, at the mayor's office or the city hall in Bellflower, California. And I don't know if any of you are near Bellflower, but while I was there, I met the mayor of Bellflower.
Wow.
And I learned that Bellflower is trying to transform their city into a place that invites people doing the arts. And they are right now proposing to change an entire street, a certain area of Bellflower, where they can make all of the storefronts be active studio spaces for artists who could live in their studio and work. And they want to find a way to fund it, to bring the artists there and give them some sort of grants. So Bellflower might be a good place to keep your eye open for. That's
And
all.
also, you got out there, you showed up, and you found out about this potential opportunity.
Yes, and it was a virtual strange things. I was visiting someone else who had an appointment to go judge a photography contest for kids in Bellflower.
Oh, James, I saw that.
They couldn't take me home. So they said, you want to go with me? And I got to be there. And that's where I got all that information. It was like, wow.
Yeah, I saw him post about that. I forgot. That's right. That's great.
Yeah, I was there with James.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Susan, I have to say, like, not only did you find out about it, you're sharing it.
Yep. Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
hey,
sharing it with other artists.
well,
Which is
that's the
how,
whole point, right?
yep, which is the basis of opportunities slash possibilities. Is definitely, it's support begets support, generosity begets generosity, sharing with others, absolutely. I completely, believe that. So in terms, don't, everybody's different, and some people feel very strongly about applying for shows where there's a juried fee. Totally understandable, especially when you don't have that much money. You know, Something to think about if you can budget, maybe $50 a month or something like that. Or, if you sell art, put a little bit aside, for possible juried shows. And, you could say, I'm going to apply to 2 this month. And see what happens with that. You don't have to apply to them all. That's the other thing about opportunities. You don't have to apply to everything. It's like, I talk to my artists about this too, because oftentimes, there's so many calls. And like I said, that's kind of why I'm discontinuing the call for art list. There are so many calls out there. It's like, and then we get FOMO because we're not applying for that call and all my friends got in, or we're, not applying to this call, or we should be applying to that call, or, it's like, I almost wasn't going to do Mass Attack, and actually like Ruby's driving. So she was here. I don't know if she's still here, but Ruby's driving. And so I'm like, okay, I'll go. It's like, but, so things happen. But and I see your question, Chris. Um, it's you don't have to apply to everything, and research, and like, maybe once a month, research calls for art, or like put it on your schedule, 15 minutes every morning. Look at, 2 calls for art, see if they're worth applying to. If they're not, that's okay, walk away. The next day, try it again. If there's a call for art, see what you need to do to apply. If you're organized, and I hate to say it that way, I don't mean it that way, but if you know where your images are of the art, if you know where the titles, the medium, the size, all of that, the prices, and it would be easy to apply for that call, then apply, then just submit and see what happens. Document it somewhere. Excuse me, I don't know how many people have applied for a call for art and then they apply for another one and they realize they're overlapping and it's the same work of art. It happens. It does happen. Then you just have to, like cross your fingers that one of them doesn't get in, you know? Or, you can always ask if they both get in, you can always ask the gallery, say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It is submitted to something else. Would you consider another piece? If it's juried, possibly not. That, they may say no, and that's okay. But ask. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. So always ask, always reach out and ask. Or ask if you can resubmit another piece if you weren't sure, or, all of these things happen, accidents happen, and it's okay. Don't even stress about it. But research, 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 because there are a lot of galleries out there that, and I don't want to, I don't know. I don't want to talk bad about anybody or any gallery or any company or any organization or anything like that. Yes, there are galleries out there just trying to make money because they want to live. They're hustling. And maybe, something that I've realized getting out there as much as I do, I was talking to a gallerist the other day, and they have a totally different view of the art world than I do. Totally different. And their gallery isn't a high-end gallery. It's not even a mid-level gallery. And it's like, I started to think about it and I'm like, I have, as an artist, I have my views, but it's like every gallery is different, and and they all have different ideas about running a gallery, you know, different ideas about how they're going to pay rent. And, you know, they feel like they're supporting artists. And for instance, I'll use this gallery, Agora, in New York. People have heard of Agora. It's like they have a reputation, they're a pay-to-play gallery. Um, they sell, you know. I mean, apparently they're in a good location. I've never been there. You know, I've heard people who have gone to Agora, and it's a nice space. And, you know, they sell, it costs the artist money. Um, you know, so it's like, and I'm also not going to, you know, look down on the artists who show there. They're, you know, they're getting their work out there in the way that they know how, because not every artist knows what to do and how to do it. And some artists have money, you know, whether it's from the stock market, inheritances, and so they can put money into their career, and that's okay too. You know, it's you know, so we have to like stay in our lane and do what we can do, whatever like those opportunities look like. And I always like, I don't like to use the word err, but you know, err on the side of most artists don't have money. And so, you know, because that's me. I'm like, you know, I don't, that's why I run Shoebox. You know, I live month to month. You know, I do the best I can with that. And so um you know, and a lot of my money goes to my art supply. So, you know, that's how artists have lived forever, you know, basically for the last few hundred years, couple hundred years. Well, few hundred. Somebody even was telling me the other day, you know, and I didn't realize this, I don't know, that Rembrandt used to have a gallery on his bottom floor and used to sell art. I know. I'm like, see, artists have hustled for years, hundreds of years. So, you know, we're doing what we can. But so I err on the side, like my philosophy is that most artists don't have money. And what can we do in that case, you know, to find opportunities, to create our own opportunities? That's the other thing also, is I absolutely believe in creating your own opportunities, getting friends together and having shows. I have a closet, a broom closet where I host shows in my broom closet. There was a gallery called Elevator Mondays. They held shows in this freight elevator. There was somebody who held shows in their car. Dallas had a show in my closet. Um, you know, it's like, you know, create your own opportunities, invite your friends, you know, and like that's what Dallas and Adiola had a show, you know, they each had a show in the closet and in my space. So each of their family and friends came. We had a wonderful turnout. It was joyous and beautiful. And it was like, you know, so they like each of their families, even though I don't know, you know, they've known each other. So, but they each saw each other's art. Same thing with Ruby, who was just in my space, and Darlene Susan Yee. Both of their audiences came and saw each other's art. So if you like host a group show, um, somebody was just telling, oh my gosh, oh, Emily, who's here. Duh. um, you know, Emily, we were just talking the other day. You know, she had a show in your mom's home, right? And, you know, 3 rooms of her mom's home, and, you know, and sold work. Do you want
Yeah,
to like talk about that for a sec?
sure. My mom had lived in Brooklyn years ago, and she had done this for an artist friend, an old friend of the family who was a painter at some mutual friend in New York. And this summer she said to me, you know, I want to do that for you, like I did with Shoya, 15 years ago. And it required some sweat equity. I had to take a bunch of work down at my mom's house because she likes to buy work. So, I had to patch and paint her walls, and then but I put up 45 pieces, and I sold 10 of them. And it was great because she put out a call to her people that she knew through the ceramic studio she belongs to and to her neighborhood association, Block Party Association in Pasadena. And I had put out a call to a list of people that I knew and that I'd been coming up with over time, and it was a really fun turnout. I think there was a question about safety concerns.
Oh,
I closed the chat for a sec.
yeah. Safety concerns if you don't know, or if you, oops, or do you not post it online? Yeah,
I
what
didn't.
you do
For
one.
us, I did not post my mother's address online, and I didn't put that. What I did was I did kind of promote it a little bit on Instagram, saying if you're in the LA area and you're interested, DM me and let's talk. Um, but it was mostly people I knew and mostly people my mother knew, although some of the neighbors in her neighborhood invited other neighbors. And so we met her new, neighbors that she hadn't met before. But it felt pretty comfortable. Yeah.
That's cool. Here at the brewery, I put my address out there, and, because I live here, but my gallery is also where I live. And so, and I've thought about it. I'm like, I open for Art Walk. People have come into my space many times, so people know where I am. Luckily it's different because we have a gated community kind of. So the gates open, but I do think about it in terms of safety. And luckily one of our security guards lives a couple doors down, so that's good. But my neighbor just had a holiday market, over the weekend, and we're not supposed to have public events. So everybody had to put DM for address. So that's just the way to do it. If you want to have, a show in your home, in your garage, put DM for address. If you want to make it a public place, there are so many vacant like stores out there, vacant storefronts, vacant offices, vacant, you may have a friend who has a space that, they may be willing to, I wonder if it's I get like this, my LED Christmas lights. I bet you that's why I'm glowing. I'm like, why am I glowing? Sorry, it's like distracting me. Um, there's so many spaces out there. And so, your friends, like, get people together that, you know, that that may know those possibilities, and may have other ideas. Remember, opportunities, slash possibilities. So, in terms of creating your own opportunities, there's many things you could do, like that. You can, collaborate with other artists, like I said. Um, you know, it you can, also show at festivals and art fairs. And, depending on if you want to sell art, depending on what type of art you sell, Beverly Hills Art Show, there's some artists that sell really, really well and some artists that don't. The other thing I wanted to say with everything I'm saying, I always recommend, if you're unsure, to first of all research and ask other artists. But if you're still not sure, try it once, try and see how you like it. Whether you do the Beverly Hills Art Show, you may be like, oh my God, I sold a lot, but it was so much work. And you think, okay, wait, are the sales worth it compared to all the work? I'm going to hire somebody to help me, so it's like, you learn. I always say try something once. If you're unsure of a gallery, if it looks cool on Instagram, if, they've shown artists that try it once, submit, see if you get in, go to the gallery, go to the opening, see the art that's there, before you apply for the show. I wanted to talk a little bit, and I know there were a couple of questions in chat, and I'll get to those in a couple minutes, and then open it up for questions too. I feel like I'm sure I missed a lot, but I also wanted to talk about opportunities in terms of, yes, there are exhibition opportunities like juried shows for group shows, but there's also opportunities for solo shows. There are a lot of opportunities out there for solo shows. There are like colleges and small museums and universities, they often have calls for proposals out there. So you can propose a solo show. You can, if you have a body of work, if you have, and a body of work is like based on a theme or based on a story that you're telling, or, like a cohesive group of art that you've created. It doesn't have to be all paintings. It doesn't have to be all sculpture. I could share photos and paintings and sculpture focused on body image, as long as it's telling the same story. So think about what your story is. But you can propose a show to most spaces. So, I mean, even spaces that may not be. And, a lot of them are scheduled 2 to 3 years in advance. So just know that. But they will, if they like your proposal, they'll keep it on file, and they have cancellations. They often have cancellations. Somebody got sick. Somebody, I had to postpone a show when I had cancer last year. I mean, things happen. And so they need somebody right away that, that they see has a show ready to go. And, and especially if they know you. If they know you're easy to work with, they're going to contact you right away and say, hey, I have a cancellation. Are you still able to show this work? And, and you could get it next month, if you're able to. I mean, but you have to put yourself out there. You have to, submit the proposals. You have to do the work. The thing with that also, and I know it takes money, but I also believe in bartering, trading services and stuff like that. But in terms of like, if I recommend outsourcing, if you need help putting a proposal together, if you need help, photographing your art or doing graphic design work, or, sitting in a gallery, whatever it is, outsource. You don't have to do it all. Barter with somebody. If you're good at graphic design, exchange graphic design services for, photography, something like that. So keep that in mind. Let's see. I do want to get to the questions, and then let's see. So Chris, I think that was the first question here. Do people make money putting their art on t-shirts and coffee mugs online? If so, which websites make money for the artists and which ones are not good? Good question, Chris. I don't think they make that much money from my experience, from things I've heard. If you have other experience, let me know. It depends on the site. There's like, Spoonflower, you can print on things and then I think sell them. There's Zazzle and Society6, and there are a lot of websites out there where you could sell, but I don't think you're not going to make enough money to make a living. You may make enough money to, for some art supplies. I don't know if it's worth it for the amount of work that you put into it. Maybe somebody else has, I mean, this isn't necessarily what the topic is, but maybe other people can get back to you in chat and, and answer that question. And then let's see, in terms of, let's talk about collectors, who is buying, and I think Valerie may have left also, but I will just say, for the recording, in terms of opportunities, it depends on your goals again. If you want to sell art, this goes along with researching your opportunities. Look at, again, research using Instagram. Look at the galleries, see if they're selling art, see if they show. Some galleries say, thank you to our collector so-and-so, or, we're so excited this work sold. It's a psychological thing. If people see that work is selling, they're going to want to, get in on the deal and, buy some work from that artist, or, they don't want to miss out, which is a sad, capitalistic thing, a sad marketing ploy. But it's like, it's the whole FOMO thing. It's the whole, and I mean, I get bitten by it all the time. So, but it is a matter of, um, different people are buying art at different times for different reasons. It is hard to say right now. I mean, that's, oh gosh. I don't even know what you can say. I don't think as much art is selling at this time, but Um, oh, thank you, Carol. You know, I've seen their ads all the time on Facebook, art storefronts. Um, and you know, that's good. That's the thing that I was saying too, in terms of any of these websites. You know, if look and see if there's somebody you know that's using them, use Facebook. Wow. Wow, that's cool. Hey, use Facebook and like, you know, your friends are artists. Ask them, does anybody use Art Storefront? What's your experience? Does anybody use Saatchi Online? Does anybody use Cafe to look up, you know, opportunities? Has anybody shown with Agora Gallery in New York? You know, all of these questions, you know, I'm thinking about applying to the show. What do you think? You know, and you'll, if your art, you know, friends are artists, it's like somebody, you know, they're going to give you tips and advice and, you know, and then you'll be able to like kind of do your research based off of that. So, let's see. Um, and I'm just reading this comment. You know, that's cool. I mean, oh, okay. Oh, interesting. Thanks for sharing. All right. Any questions? I mean, I feel like I have other links, like I have a whole other tons of links on Facebook groups for art opportunities. Um, you know, oh yeah, I know. Oh, I remember Frank. I used to teach at AV College. So, yep, I remember Frank. Um, let's see. So it's really interesting. This is a link that I had just found. Oh, cool, that it's called Big Art Opportunities, and it's a spreadsheet with art opportunities. And it was shared in Hyperallergic, and it's so fascinating. Like, you know, look at that when you have time. Um, you know, we're gonna next week, and you know, if you signed up on the, you know, mailing list, excuse me, if you signed up on the mailing list, I'll send you a link next Monday for the organization workshop. And I'll talk a little bit about spreadsheets and like, and even how to organize. I mean, it's like how to organize a lot of your art life, but part of it is also even organizing calls for art. You know, what art you submit to what place and things like that, because that's an important thing when you apply. Um, you know, I know there's probably more, let's see, and I did see um for as far as Chris, I don't understand your question. As far as artwork archive, oh, okay, I gotcha. Um, you know, artwork archive, I highly recommend it. I don't use it. For, you know, keeping track of your art organization, absolutely. People swear by it. So yes, for artwork archive. As far as like, I mean, you know, yes to nudity. I mean, nudity has been in art for, you know, thousands of years. Um, you know, I would just do what you do and worry about the rest later. The only thing I'll say about nudity is be sure to filter out any of that on Facebook or Instagram because they will ban you. So, you know, I showed Perceive Me at Studio Channel Islands, you know, and actually it was perceived very well. So people came back. Somebody like said they had been twice and they were talking about it with their kids around their dinner table. And this was in Camarillo. So, you know, just, you know, do what you do and worry about the rest later. April.
I agree with that, and I agreed with what you were saying earlier as far as just working and putting your work out there because people see it, whether you know it or not. Sometimes people are watching you develop, watching you do your things, and I for my last two art opportunities. I didn't look for them. They came to me, which is wonderful, but they were from putting myself out there previously. You know, when I put myself and like a year ago and it came back now. And the other one I have no idea where it came from or why I was picked for it, but people are paying attention to what you're doing. So just sometimes just keep doing what you're doing and be authentic with it, because the authenticity is what people like admire, and they latch onto that because there's no one else like that. There's only one you that you can be. So, um,
Exactly. Yep, absolutely. And if you don't know, you're welcome, Joe. April is in Vegas, but she has a piece on view right now in LA at Los Angeles Makery, Opulent Mobility, which is a fantastic piece, by the way. Congratulations. So,
and I have a piece online, and that's the one of the pieces that it was in a portfolio that I put for a grant at the beginning of the year. And it like everything that was in that portfolio was able to be looked at by other curators and stuff, and to be put into future shows or something from them. So putting
yeah.
yourself out there really makes a difference.
And thank you for that. It's, I mean, the story. I've told it many times to my artists that, you never know what opportunities could come when you submit to something and even were rejected. An artist I worked with early on at Shoebox, she submitted for a grant through the California Community Federation Foundation, a CCF grant, which is like a $10,000 or $15,000 grant, I think. So she didn't get the grant, but one of the jurors was Corina Pipon, who she worked at the Getty or at the UCLA Hammer. She worked at Honor Fraser. Now she runs her own consulting business. But Corina, was a curator at a show that was at the National Museum of Women Artists in Washington, D.C., where they picked a curator from different regions of the United States. And that curator brought in an artist. And Corina picked Jennifer, the artist I worked with, Celio, because she saw her work from the grant and loved her work so much and felt it would be perfect. So it's like you never ever know what opportunities could come years down the line from putting yourself out there. I have, I mean, and this isn't necessarily opportunities, but it also goes for collectors. I will say, people who have bought your work will come back and buy your work again. Remember that. People who see your work will come back. They will remember you for whatever it is, and they may recommend you to somebody. So, like this last brewery art walk was in October, and I showed some of the new Perceive Me work. And this guy came in and he was looking around and he's like, I first saw your work the first time you showed in 2011. And, and it's just amazing to see how far you've come. I mean, it was like this really beautiful conversation. Like, he saw that. He saw, like, what, 13 years ago? And I mean, I was painting back then, but it's still different. But he's like, we had like a 15-minute conversation, and just it was really special. It was really cool. And people, it's like we often have like this single view of what we think people think. That's what perceives me about is about. We have this single focused view on, oh, well, this person isn't going to buy my art because of this, or they don't like my art. They're rejecting me because of this reason. When honestly, we have no idea how other people think. We have no idea what's going on in other people's lives, you know. Yeah, so it's like, it's hard, especially rejection and especially opportunities when we put ourselves out there so much and nothing happens. We think, well, it's because we're not good enough, which is totally not true. It is totally not true. Exactly what was it, April? Are you the one who said we're all unique? Or who said, or Emily, or one, yeah. I mean, we all have a story to tell. We all have a unique voice. We are all doing different work and we're all doing amazing things. It's just the more we put ourselves out there, the more we will find the audience that we're meant to find. if that makes sense. And that means, if an opportunity comes, and this is, I'll go ahead and end it here, and then just one more go around for questions, if there are any. It's okay to say no to opportunities. So I'm going to put that out there also. I know April's like, what? It's like oftentimes, kind of like what I said earlier, there are like sometimes sometimes, a lot of times, I get burnt out. My bandwidth just goes down. I get overwhelmed. I'm like, I can't apply to this show because there's no way I could drop it off on this day because I have meetings, I have this, for whatever reason. Yeah, Adiola has a clone. So
I do.
yeah. We always talked about that. But no, in terms of, there you may there are going to be 10 opportunities this week. There are going to be 10 more next week. There are going to be 10 more the following week. There will always, always, always be opportunities. Always. And when I say opportunities, I also mean possibilities. Remember that. They will always be there. If you're not able to do something this week, it's okay to say no. Whether it's because of money, whether you can't drive there, whether you're not feeling well, whether the world has got you really anxious, whatever the reason, it is okay to say no, you know? And oh, perfect, Carol, exactly. Exactly. Students are the best, Yep. Again, outsourcing when you can, but also saying no because we need to protect our space. We need to protect ourselves, we need to protect our peace. Somebody told me that recently, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I didn't go to Thanksgiving with my families because I'm protecting my peace. But so it is okay to say no. And many of my artists, they'll come to me and they'll say, I applied to 30 different things and I got 15, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it happens. When you apply to a lot of things, you get into a lot of things. So you really have to consider that. And when you're applying. But again, for instance, like Made in California, that call for art is open right now at Brea Gallery. It's a beautiful show. They always show really great art. There's prizes. It's every year, So it's like, if you don't apply for it this year, that's okay. It'll be back next year, So just remember that, moving forward when thinking about opportunities and stuff like that. Or create a clone machine like Adiola. Just kidding, Adiola. Well. Um, any other questions about opportunities? I know I could go on and on and on, and we could talk all day, and because opportunities could go all different directions. But feel free to email me if you have any questions. And like I said, I'll email everybody with, the list of links and the Facebook groups where you can find art opportunities. And keep an eye out on those, don't get overwhelmed by them, look at them when you can. Like I said, whether you do time management, whether you do 15 minutes in the morning every day or 1 hour a week, or just to apply, and that's it. And keep an eye out for other opportunities when by getting out there, putting yourself out there. And like I said, it's okay to say no also. So just remember that. Let's see. Oh, I see another question in chat. Okay, let's see. Oh, good question, Annie. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to, maybe post it in a Facebook group too. You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope this helped. I hope this helped everybody. So, oh, somebody sent me, what was that? Somebody sent me a private message and I always oops. Oh, there it is. Oh, okay. Let's see. Yeah, cool. Let me see. Anything else? Okay, good. You are very welcome. And so, yeah, next week we will talk about organizing, which won't be as exciting as our opportunities, but it'll still be helpful, I hope. So have a good night, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Protect your peace. Save your
Thank you.
chat.
Bye.
Save your chat too. Bye. I'm saving chat just in case. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm glad it helped.
Thank you very much, Kristine.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You take care of yourself, Paina.
Thank you very much.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
you too,
Thank you,
by the way. Everybody has to do it. Okay, have a good rest of the night.
You too. You too. And enjoy Miami as long as you're there, Carol.
Yes, working at it.
Yep. Good. Good. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, Donna, I see you talking, but I can't hear you. Okay. Bye.
Hi, Fiona. Take care. Okay. Bye, Kristine.
Bye. Good to see you, kind of.
I